drill a hole in it.
I sort of have
You put the grommet in, you seal the grommet with
ancient career
food
history.
safe, cleaning safe, silicone sealant. So it won't make you sick, plants won't get nasty stuff over, you know? You seal that in there, seal the holes in there. You put you put some gravel in the bottom, up to about this level.
Thank you all so much for coming out today.
If you got the tools, you cut out the lid, put holes in it, and then you lay that on top of the gravel. If you don't, you get some of this weed blocker cloth. Cut it out like about 14 inches around square. You put it down on top of the gravel, and for either one, you put dirt on top of that, fill it up to nearly the top, and then you start
all these great organizations have been doing over the past few years. So I will start by thanking you all for coming. My name is Isaac Baker. I'm going to play a small MC role today, and my first honor is to welcome Reverend John Kinley, the head of school here at the Epiphany and our host for the day. Thanks so much.
We are, all of us at Epiphany are very honored to have all of you here. We're very proud to be in this community and to be doing the work together with all of you. I particularly want to single out Ashley Ingalls, who is somewhere. Where are you, Ashley? There you are. For those of you who don't know, Ashley is in the process of building a 1,000-square-foot greenhouse on our other property down the street, installing 20 raised beds to grow vegetables outdoors, and is leading our gardening program here at Epiphany along with our students, who I hope you had a chance to meet from our gardening club, and as well as Chef Sue, who is somewhere around. Chef Sue, are you here?
I think she's in the kitchen.
All right, she's in the kitchen, which is where the chef should be. And if any of you want to come back when we're actually in school, we'd love to have visitors at the school. Our students are in school almost 12 hours a day, so whatever works for you will probably be just fine for.
It's been a really, really fun and really energizing to have been working on planning this with all the organizations here and seeing everyone come together, working together to make this such a celebration. And so want to specifically thank the Epiphany School for hosting here today, having us share this beautiful space with you. Another shout out to Ashley for helping us really with huge on the food and the organization and the logistics and attention to detail that is not one of my strengths and has been hugely appreciated. And so thanks for all the work that you put in. BCAN, Boston Climate Action Network, who are set up back there, and Mike Prakash as really central in inviting a lot of the organizations and doing some recruiting and helping also just create this as something collaborative, as something for us all to take different pieces of and make happen. So thanks to Mike. Composting and recycling with the help of Cerro Co-op. Tim. If you haven't,
what a green job looks like.
If you haven't had a chance to compost or recycle or learn what goes in both of those containers, right over there for after the speaking section. And then also we received two pretty major donations, about 100 seed packets from Home Depot to help with the gardening piece. And a shout out to Daily Table, which is located right on Washington Street, and now another one in Dudley Square, who donated about 1,000 Kind bars. So if you didn't get a Kind bar or 20 Kind bars, stop by on your way out, or also come by our office to say hello, as I'm sure we'll have some extras for a little while now. Yeah, and I think that's about it. And just want to say that a large part of this event is that we want to strengthen this coalition. We want to strengthen the work that we're all doing in our community for this vision of climate justice and community strengthening. And so with all the groups here, Co-op Power, Dorchester Food Co-op, Greenovate was here a little while ago, and Boston BCAN that if you do want to be a part of helping us really grow this coalition and strengthen the work that we're doing, please come talk to either Mike or myself, or really actually anyone here. I think we want to do some follow-up afterwards and really have more of an intentional meeting, I think, of where we can plan and strategize together. So that to come. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maddie. And a final shout out to Maddie as well, who's done a huge amount of organizing. And one final piece on our list, the New England Grassroots Environment Fund provided some resources to help pull all this off. So a thank you to them as well. I don't know, sleet that day, so I have to say, for me, the relief of having this beautiful day to share together was a real honor. And it's the springtime, right? And I think with that, what we're doing is we're starting something new. A lot of what Maddie was talking about was the Boston Affordable Energy Coalition, work that's been coming together over the past year, getting incubated over the winter, a lot of strong organizing energy going into that. And this spring, I think, is the first day where we get to see all that come together with all of us here in one space. So really excited to see the energy that comes from that. And next up, speaking of things that have been planned over the winter and are going to be blooming and coming alive this spring, I want to invite up Kimberly from Dorchester Bay, who's their Director of Marketing and Communications, to talk more about some of the bold steps they're taking on climate energy here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. So I am really thrilled to be here to talk about...
Nice and close.
Oops, sorry. Can you hear me?
Nice and close.
Is this better? Sorry, I don't want to shout. Okay. Is that okay? All right, good. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Dorchester Bay's partnership with Resonant Energy. We're really excited about this. So Dorchester Bay has about 1,000 units of affordable housing in the Dorchester and surrounding areas, and we also have some commercial space. And we're committed to greening those properties, and we're partnering with Resonant to put a solar panel on the roof of our Bornstein and Pearl Food Production Center. It's a really large commercial space over on Quincy Street where some small food production companies are. And by putting this solar panel on that building, it's going to help us reduce our energy costs, which we can pass those savings on to those tenants and make that space affordable. So it allows small food production companies to remain in Dorchester and not be displaced. And so when you think about climate, it also really does tie into the economics of things. So we're really excited about that. And it's part of our sort of desire to help make energy more accessible to people in the lower income communities that we serve. So we're really excited about partnering with Resonant Energy on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as a final piece of what's to come, many groups here have been working on a new program called the Solar Access Program. So not only helping the commercial spaces get access to solar, but also working and thinking about how these groups can bring that benefit out into the neighborhood, working with single-family homeowners, folks with limited resources. And there's a program underway that will be launching this summer that Dorchester Bay has also partnered on to help make very successful. So more details on that to come, but huge thank you to you for joining us here today. Next up, I would like to invite up our keynote speaker for the day. And this is a longtime friend and somebody who has been doing this work with us for years now. Was part of the first interfaith solar campaign back in 2016.
So it is really good to be here, and I have to say I too am glad that the weather has cooperated today. But I think, you know, as I was on my way here, I thought about how, so I, for years, was a youth worker at an organization called Project Hip Hop. Most of our young people came from Roxbury and Dorchester, which are the neighborhoods that I grew up in, the neighborhood that I live in now. I live in Dorchester, over near the JFK train stop. And I remembered how the spring would come and I'd be really excited, you know, because does anybody here love winter? Do we have? Okay, my husband does. He loves winter. I tolerate winter and I get through winter, but I love summer. And the spring would come and you would realize that summer was just around the corner and it would be exciting. But I also have to admit that as a youth worker, as things started getting a little warmer, I also started to feel just a little bit of fear. Because I also knew that summer is the time when violence would also spike in the neighborhood, where I would get worried that we would come together in events and maybe, just maybe, those events wouldn't be safe. And as somebody who worked with young people for years, I unfortunately had the experience of losing young people that I knew, that I would work with them on a Friday night and that I'd be at their funeral the following week. On the ride over here, I passed Nightingale Street, and it reminded me about one of the young people I worked with. His name was Kareem Burry, and so Project Hip Hop, as you might guess from its name, we attracted a lot of young people who loved music and loved rap and loved to make art, and Kareem was one of those young people. And I remember every year we would have a summer program, and we do interviews and then we choose young people. And I remember I got a call. We had finished our interviews and this was the day we were supposed to meet and make the decisions. And I got a call from someone. They said, "I think this young person would be perfect for your program. Can he get in?" I said, "Well, we applications were due last week. We already finished the interviews." And she was like, "But I think he's gonna be perfect." I said, "Well, if you can get him here today, we'll sit down with him." And so the caseworker, I guess they must have just got in the car because she had him there by the afternoon. And during that interview, he crushed the interview. Every question we asked, the way he responded to it was exactly what you would hope for. He talked about the fact that there are a lot of challenges in our community, but also all of the beautiful things, the way that people share with each other, the way that people come out on the block and block parties, and how people come together, and how with more resources and more support, our community could be stronger. And then he talked about how part of the reason that he hadn't been able to apply is that he had been locked up at Harvard Street, and he had just gotten out the day before. And how he knew that if he could take the same skills that he had used in some negative ways and turn them around, that he could really be a powerful part of lifting up our neighborhood. And so, honestly, by the end of the interview, we were like, he's in. I don't know who might not get in, but he's in. And so we had our retreat, and every time I would be like, "I need you all to go to sleep at a decent hour. We're here to be together and, learn." And of course, people would stay up to 2 and 3 in the morning, and people would end up with toothpaste in their hair. And, it was a bunch of high school students who were getting to know each other for the first time, but it was always a ton of fun. And that year, during the retreat, I really saw how they were bonding as a group. And so at the end of it, I was super excited for the summer. I was like, this crew is about to create amazing work together. So I dropped them off and told them, we're meeting on Wednesday, and it's my birthday, so don't be late, because I'm not staying late. And everybody came, got home and said they would be there on time. And I woke up Wednesday morning to a call that Kareem had been stabbed on Nightingale Street and bled out. And so every year on my birthday, I think about that. I think about how much amazing potential we have in our communities and how often that potential gets stripped away because people don't recognize how awesome we are, how amazing our young people are. And so a couple years ago, 2016, I was, really involved around this pipeline struggle in West Roxbury. How many people know about the gas pipeline in West Roxbury, okay? So if you don't know, whenever we turn on our stove, that gas comes from somewhere, right? And there are companies that create these pipelines to bring the gas into the city. Now, usually what they do is the really, really big pipelines, they put them out in rural areas. Why? So if something goes wrong, hopefully not that many people would be near the pipeline. There's a pipeline like that in Pennsylvania. It's out in a pretty rural area. In April of 2016, something went wrong with the pipeline. It had an explosion. It started burning. One man was pretty deeply affected. He was burned in a significant portion of his body. But because it was in a relatively rural area, not that many people were directly harmed. They wanted to put the same kind of pipeline right in the middle of the city. And I was thinking, that sounds absolutely crazy. Like, what if something goes wrong? But then I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. Like, I grew up in Roxbury. And if you're really from Boston, you know that Roxbury and West Roxbury are really far apart in a lot of ways, right? And I'm gonna be honest. When people told me, like, you should come to West Roxbury, I was like, yeah, they'll be all good. I did. I had that mentality. I had the mentality, well, if they were putting this pipeline in Roxbury, would West Roxbury show up for us? And so I kind of stayed back. I was like, they'll call their elected officials. Everybody will listen to them. It'll be all good. They'll stop this pipeline. I don't need to get involved. And eventually, a friend of mine kept asking me, and then she was like, well, just come to this one event. And so I came, and I met a lot of other folks there, and I saw the pipeline. And I realized, regardless of whatever tensions or issues may be there, this pipeline is wrong. There is no way we should be putting highly pressurized gas along places where people live, where senior citizens live, and they can't get away quickly. Shouldn't be next to schools, shouldn't be next to people's homes. We have to care about people's lives more than about gas and all sorts of other things. I'm not saying we don't have to think about them, but they should never be more important than human lives. And so I started getting more involved, started being more active. And finally, a friend of mine asked me to come out on this day where we were gonna really protest the pipeline by jumping in and stopping construction. And I told him, let me know, let's see what this is about. And he sent out an email that I thought was really interesting because how many people have heard of the country of Pakistan? You know where Pakistan is? Okay, Pakistan and India are really close to each other, and it gets pretty warm in Pakistan. I mean, we think it gets hot here when it's like 90s. No, when it gets summer there, you're talking hundreds, right? And in 2015, they had a year that was the hottest year ever. So hot that in a 3-day period, thousands of people died, mostly babies and seniors, because they had a hard time. Those are the folks that have the hardest time regulating their body temperature. And so thousands of people died. So many people, they didn't actually have enough graves for everybody. And so in 2016, there was a story in the newspaper about a man who had basically ran a cemetery, and he was digging graves in advance. Because he was like, who knows, it could be really hot this year. We should go ahead and just dig the ditches now so we'll be prepared. And my friend sent me this article because he said, look at that ditch. Doesn't it look the same as the ditch that they're putting the pipeline in West Roxbury? And I was like, they looked exactly the same, and it was kind of crazy to think, we're putting in this pipeline for fossil fuels that are gonna kill us while people are literally having to dig these graves because it's killing them right now. And so they proposed that we were gonna do an action and we were gonna call attention to this. And I didn't weigh in, they chose the date, and the date they chose was June 29th, my birthday, and the anniversary of the day that Kareem was killed. And so I joined a group of other people on that day, and I jumped into that ditch, and we had to do it kind of stealth, because when we first came, the police were there to stop us because they had figured out we were gonna jump in the ditch, so we had to leave, wait an hour, and then come back and run and jump into the ditch, and we stopped the construction that day. Yeah, it was crazy, but we all started talking about, while we were there, we knew we were gonna get arrested. The police were on the way. And so we started talking about it. And I shared with them that my reason for being in that ditch was not just about fossil fuels. It's true, we need to stop burning fossil fuels. We need to protect our planet. We need to save our climate. That is true. But the reality is that people are dying. Far too many people are dying because we don't care enough about people's lives. We don't value everyone like we should. And I want to live in a world where we put human life and the health of our planet before money, before some people's profits, before some people having more than they need while other folks don't have the basic stuff that they need to survive. And for me, I was thinking not just about the folks in Pakistan and not just about the folks in West Roxbury, but the young people that live in the neighborhoods that I've grown up in my whole life who have so much potential, but they don't get the resources and the support that they need. To push back on climate, we have got to radically change the way we treat each other and the way we treat our planet. It is not enough just to try to pull back on the fossil fuels and leave everything else the same. If we're gonna build a new world, I'm sorry, I'd like to end racism while we're at it. I'd like to push back on sexism while we're at it. I'd like to empower young people to be stronger leaders in our community. That's the kind of world I want to build, and I think we can do it. So I say this because we're here on Earth Day, and we're trying to imagine what kind of Earth we want to live on, what kind of community we want to be. And I'm excited because part of the reason that I support Resonant is not just because of the solar panels. That's one piece of it. But also because we've been talking about how do we make sure the jobs to install those solar panels go to folks in our community? How do we make sure that it's not just the people that have thousands of dollars that get to have panels, but people who really need that money to lower their electricity bill, because if their electricity bill was lower, they could actually spend some more money on food and the other things that they need to survive. These things are all deeply connected. And we have to do our work as people who care about climate justice. We don't have to choose between saving young people in our community and lowering our bills and saving the planet. We can do them all at the same time. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see everybody out here. I hope you will talk to somebody here that you don't know. Share a little bit about your story. Why are you here? Why do you care about this? What matters to you? And then hear the same thing from them. And I'm also going to do a little bit of a shameless plug, because I care about these things. And a few months ago, a friend of mine brought up to me, she cares a lot about health issues particularly. How many people know about Eric Garner? And you've heard the hashtag I Can't Breathe? Well, one of the things to know about our Eric Garner is, yes, he died because of the brute force by the police. But part of the reason that his lungs were so fragile is because he suffered from asthma. And he came from a community in New York where far too many people suffer from asthma because of the pollution in that neighborhood. As it turns out, his daughter, Erica, who was a passionate activist around these issues, died last year, partially connected to complications from asthma and also the stress of trying to get justice for her father when people have not wanted to. But a lot of us started talking about the fact that asthma and climate are deeply related. And so May 1st, which is exactly 10 days away, May 1st is World Asthma Day. It's also International Workers' Day. And we are losing. So yeah, if folks can try to hold it down. I love clean air, but sometimes, the wind. All right, we got it. So May 1st is World Asthma Day. And we felt like it's important to draw attention to all these connections, right? And so a group of us decided that we wanted to reframe World Asthma Day and International Workers Day, which is a day where many people are talking about immigrant justice, which is all deeply connected, right? A lot of the people that are coming to this country undocumented are doing so because they live in countries where there's not enough work, where there's not enough food, where there's drought and famine, and they need some place to go where they can live. And so we started saying, what if we, on World Asthma Day, decided to raise awareness about why asthma is disproportionately affecting communities of color and low-income people and folks who live in countries where we are dumping a lot of toxins. So we started getting this idea. What if we all started wearing, on May 1st, masks? This is a dust mask. It's a mask you wear when you're doing construction so that you won't get those particulates into your lungs. And so on May 1st, we're asking people to wear this mask. This mask says #LetUsBreathe. We don't want to just talk about why we can't breathe. We also want to talk about the fact that it is in our power to create a world where we have clean energy that does not give us asthma. It is in our ability to create a world where everybody has access to good health care to support them. We have the resources to create this world. We just need more of the will. And so I have masks with me. If after this you want to come make your own mask and decorate it, and then we can take a picture together and tag it, #LetUsBreathe. But I hope on May 1st, you will join with us and people are really around the state who are raising awareness about the reality is that a better world is possible. We have enough resources for each and every one of us to live well, but we've got to make different choices. As a country, we need our politicians to be different, but that work begins when we here as community members imagine a better world and decide that we won't settle for anything less than what we deserve. So thank you for having me here, and I look forward to meeting more of you, and I'm thankful for this beautiful weather as we celebrate the work we're doing together to make a better world. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Mariama, everyone. That was wonderful. Thank you for joining us here. All right. So with that, we want to wrap up the speaking for today. We want to talk about some of the policy asks of what we can do together. We were going to have, in a few moments, we're going to have Representative Russell Holmes, who's our local state representative for this area, is going to be joining us. And in the meantime, I think we want to think about what are those things we want to be asking for when we ask our elected officials what more can they do for this community to help drive this work that's been going on. This is a quick shout out to the work that Boston Climate Action has been doing to make community choice energy a bigger part of the Boston cycle and to be fighting for clean energy powering the city. That proposal is moving forward, and that's one of the many asks that I think we can make of our elected officials here in the city together. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to continue to enjoy the sunshine, and before we wrap up, we want to make sure we get one photo all together. So we're going to do a photo right here, and we're going to get our nice banner in front, perhaps, depending on whether or not it's done. Forget about the banner. We do want to get one photo all together with everyone. So if folks